Hi, I'm Representative Ilana Rubel. I am the House Minority Leader here at the Legislature, and this is the Minority Report, letting you know what's been going on at your Statehouse this week. Let's see. Well, we just passed out of committee on a not quite straight party line vote, but close yesterday, HJR 4, which is a new constitutional amendment aimed at preventing the people of Idaho from ever being able to legalize medical marijuana. This one would say that no psychoactive drug can ever be legalized in Idaho unless it is passed by the legislature, by each chamber of the legislature, with at least a 2/3 vote in each chamber, and then signed by the governor. The clear intent being to preclude the people of Idaho from ever being able to pass a ballot initiative on this point. To me, it seems kind of odd because it really inherently assumes that this is what the people of Idaho want, is to legalize medical cannabis, and they're just scheming on how they can prevent that from ever happening. But that will probably be heard on the floor next week. Other strange things that are happening, 2 days ago, the House State Affairs Committee killed House Bill 72, which was really necessary to allow the Powerball to continue operating in Idaho, because right now it's not permitted to operate if it operates in any other countries, and it's expanding into UK and Australia. So we needed to pass a change to our statute to allow Powerball to keep operating and permit them to also operate in the UK and Australia. Astonishingly, it was killed in committee with really weird conspiracy theories being woven, in particular about how we don't want any profit going to Australia out of this because Australia has gun control laws. Things got very weird in there, and they ended up killing the bill, which, if it is let lie as is, would mean that we no longer have Powerball lottery in Idaho, and our schools would lose $14 million a year in funding from lottery proceeds. So that's a big problem that we need to see if we can try to fix before the end of session. Another thing that happened is they killed the House Bill 195, which was the targeted picketing bill, which would have prevented people from going and picketing at people's houses. You all remember when the protesters went to the police officer's house in Meridian, and then they went and harassed Diana Lasciando's kids at home and shone floodlights into the windows of members of the health board. It's really become kind of a menace to be in public office, which I think was the driver for this bill, but it was shot down on the House floor. Speaking of the end of session, predictions are now that will happen in a couple weeks, but it won't really end. They're going to just recess and then come back a month later so that they can oversee the spending of all of the federal money that's going to be coming in under the American Recovery Plan, because they don't want Governor Little to be able to dispense with those funds. So that is what's happening here from my end. You're going to hear from some others, and thank you so much for tuning in.
Hello again, I'm Senator Michelle Stennett. I am from District 26 and the Minority Leader in the Senate. And welcome back to our little podcast. I'm going to talk about two different things that happened in the Senate that are very different from each other. And as we've mentioned before, there have been several bills between the House and the Senate have been trying to challenge what the power of the legislature is and the power of the governor, particularly as it pertains to emergencies and disasters and martial law. And in the case that just passed the Senate today, it was pertaining to situations of peril. It's beyond emergency, it's more violent. It isn't natural disasters. It has to pertain to more attacks on our soil. And the legislature did not want to give the governor the power to quickly and nimbly manage a natural disaster. But more was only giving him the power to manage something that was martial law. Let's say that we are physically attacked. And the unfortunate thing about that is there wasn't a real definition for what a violent insurrection or a violent revolt would be, and what those definitions were. Is something at the U.S. Capitol considered a violent insurrection, or something lesser that happened at the state capitol? And those were important differentiations. The inability for us to be able to handle natural disasters quickly, because that's why it's handed to the governor. I would argue that 105 legislators in 35 districts and 44 counties just don't have that nimbleness. If there is a true disaster, we're talking about a giant fire, a big flood, an earthquake, a volcano, whatever those are, those will lock us down for roads and communication and God forbid, deaths. And so how would our government manage that? And then there was the question about how that would be managed, and if it's not necessarily declared an emergency, if the legislature chooses not to or the governor chooses not to, would we lose out on federal dollars and emergency disaster relief, which is extremely important for us to be able to manage any kind of disaster. There was just too many questions. It had been amended, and it basically completely revamped the bill. And the governor was not asked his opinion about it. The legislature had very little time to look at the amendments. And so I felt like that it needed a lot more discussion and definition. And so I did not vote for it, but it did pass the Senate and it's going to the House. Also in the Senate, in my Resources and Environment Committee, we had a robust discussion because of a memorial that came before us on the lower 4 Snake River dams and breaching. And that was in response to Congressman Simpson having put out a communique about opening this up for discussion. And I think it was important for us to talk to all sides about this. But we have to remember that what is written in the language of a bill is important. And unfortunately, the memorial was all about protecting agriculture and not breaching dams and not having any discussion about it, without ever acknowledging that there is an equal amount of revenue annually that comes from a very strong recreational sector, and a lot of those are fisheries. And it didn't talk about tribes, it didn't talk about our fisheries and recreation, and therefore all it was narrow to a single sector. And yet in Idaho, the agricultural economy annually is $7.9 billion. And yet our recreation is $7.8 billion, and that should have been part of the discussion. There were lots of discussion about how much it costs for us to manage fish, and still all of our salmon runs in Idaho are on decline dramatically. And so therefore what we're doing isn't working. And there is obviously much to discuss about this that I can't put in the podcast. But we do have these recorded live in our committees and on our floor. So if you're interested, you can always go to our legislative website and listen to it for yourself. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll be talking soon. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Representative Sally Toon. I represent District 26, which is Blaine County, Camas County, Gooding County, and Lincoln County. I'm also the Minority Caucus Chair in the state legislature. Hope everyone's having a great day. We have great news, as I'm a teacher. We had printed this week an option for all-day kindergarten funded by the state of Idaho. This will be something new and different, and it's a wonderful opportunity for our local schools. With that said, we have really met with a whole lot of anti-education bills this year. It breaks my heart as a former teacher. We start out with certification of teachers, House Bill 21, that would let anybody with a 4-year degree and 18 years of age possibly be certified to go into our classrooms. It just was a bill that, in the face of what our teachers go through to be certified and be a professional, it really hurts on that. We also had this year 293, which is a slap in the face to the schools that have worked so hard this year in the COVID pandemic. It says it demands schools have 4 days a week in-person classroom, irregardless of safety concerns for that environment, or they're going to lose their money. It really hurts our school boards that have worked so hard to make sure students have the best learning environment and the safety of everybody concerned. We had 294, which originally started. It's another one, Stronger Families, Stronger Students. Our kudos to Governor Little. This is an extension of that program. That's a great program that offers $500 for every family. The other side of that bill, unfortunately, will take money from families and put into a voucher system. It has no accountability for our state dollars. As taxpayers, we have to have accountability in our testing, and we need to know where this money's going to. And unfortunately, 294 does not. The last piece, we had guns in schools this week, again, overstepping our local school boards. They already make those decisions at the local level. This would make it a state mandate. Anybody can carry a gun on their person, which flies right in the face of local school board policies. We need to make sure that the conversation is with our school board. That's what we elect them. There's policies, and they're responsible for the safety of our kids. We need to know what's happening, and that's a local decision in there. We also had the very last one along the way, in the face of schools not letting them choose their curriculums. We had 249, which says parents have to opt into our sex education courses. It's making the parents ultimately who do have control, but it flies in the face of school boards when they tell me that parents don't have input into their local schools. That's just not true. Our schools are run by our elected personnel, and you know what? Everybody has a say in that. So it's really been a tough year on our educational system. The people that work locally absolutely do have the best interest of their communities at heart. So with that, let's keep our fingers crossed as we finish up the session that we have a couple more good funding sources. We know we have some money coming in, so keep our fingers crossed.
Hi, I'm Representative Lauren Necochea from District 19. We saw the House Revenue and Taxation Committee continue to ignore the needs of everyday Idahoans this week. The committee introduced a tax plan from House Republican leadership that has very deep permanent revenue cuts, overwhelmingly flowing to the highest income earners. It also has a very stunning one-time rebate that's completely lopsided. A couple earning $1 million will receive a rebate of about $6,000. A couple earning $50,000 a year will receive a rebate of about $100. This does nothing to build a strong middle class, the kind of middle class that can power our economy. We saw similar efforts when it came to property tax bills that were at best insensitive and at worst harmful. One makes it much harder for seniors to qualify for property tax assistance, meaning a loss of $6.5 million in assistance provided, which is about a third of the program. The second bill allows the state to help you with your unaffordable property tax bill by putting a lien on your house and taking over ownership of your house bit by bit over the years until you pass away or sell the house. This can't be our response for property taxes or tax policy in general. We need to do much better, and I'm hopeful that these bills will at least be modified so that they're less harmful by the time we get out of here.